Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we're going over my top 5 premium battleships list, the best premium battleships available to you in game right now. So before we get too far, what do I mean by premium battleship? Well, I mean that these are ships that you can go into the premium shop right now and purchase for cash. Now, a couple of them do have alternative ways to acquire them, and we'll talk about that when we get to those ships. But this is about premium battleships. And there is a difference between a premium battleship and like a resource ship and a special ship. Premium ships, if you look at their icons in port, their icons are fully golded out, meaning that they do have the golden wreaths around them, but the symbol for the ship is also golded out as well. That means that ship does have a special economy. The resource ships and some of the special ships, they aren't full-on premiums, they're just special ships. They do have a bit of an improved economy because they come with the economic boosters, but they don't have the premium baked-in economy, so their economy isn't as good. And one big thing about premium ships is, of course, their economy. These 5 ships are all full-on premium ships that have a premium economy. So when you play these ships, and if you do well in them, you will be seeing quite a nice return on your effort put into the match. So TLDR, if you can't go into the premium shop in port right now and see a ship on that list, it's not going to be included in this video. Same goes for ships that have been removed. We're doing the top 5 best premium battleships that you can currently acquire right now, so ships like the Jean Bar will not be on this list. So with that clarification out of the way, of course these ships are well worth the money or the other resources that you need to obtain them, in my opinion, and I would give you the green light to purchase any of these ships on this list. Realistically, you could buy any one of these ships and you'll be set for the rest of your time in World of Warships, in my opinion at least. Alright, so let's go ahead and get on into it with number 5, the Tier 7 Premium British Battleship, the Duke of York. Now, the Duke of York is a bit of an interesting ship from, well, a development side of things and from my point of view. The Duke of York was actually supposed to be like this incredibly well-armored battleship that didn't have a heel. It didn't have a heel at all during a large portion of its development cycle. It just had dummy thick armor, which on paper that sounds like an interesting concept. Having a King George V class battleship that was actually armored to its historical armor. Like the King George V class battleships were some of the best, if not the best, armored battleships of the Second World War, even giving the Yamato class a run for its money. And Wargaming, I guess they're trying to get this to work in game, but you know, with the way that fires work in this game, yeah, that didn't pan out. So they had to go and change it up. So it is essentially a King George V that's side graded to be more of an AP focused ship. Now, she still does have pretty darn good HE, but her rate of fire is much slower than the King George V. The King George V, you can sit there and spam HE all game and it's incredibly effective. The Duke of York, you can do that and you'll still be pretty well off, but its AP has the improved pin angles, meaning that your 14-inch AP shells bite much more aggressively than the King George V. So in a case where, let's say, a King George V fires at a cruiser and it's angled and her 14-inch shells bounce or ricochet, your 14-inch AP shells with the Duke of York will actually bite and do absolutely devastating damage to that cruiser because it is the short fuse AP as well. Now, you might be thinking, oh, well, it's short fuse AP, so it's not that great against battleships. Well, I mean, you got 10 of the guns. And 10 guns, as we've seen recently with Wargaming's strange fixation on, 16-gun battleships and such now, you can make up for in caliber with volume. And the Duke of York does most certainly do that. And she's a Tier 7 ship. Tier 7 matchmaking right now is on the better side because Tier 9 is getting sucked into Tier 10 and Super Ship games. So Tier 7 matchmaking is pretty darn decent right now. And if you do get in a tier 9 game, the Duke of York does have the HE to fall back on. Again, it's not as good of an HE spammer as her sister, the King George V, but it definitely has enough HE power to hang in there at higher tier games. Now, she does also have Hydroacoustic Search for some reason. I don't know why. I guess since it is a more AP focused battleship, they assumed you would be playing it closer, which you can do, and the Hydro does most certainly help out for that. Of course, with submarines, it always helps to have Hydro around as well. Now, the Duke of York is one of the ships on this list that you can acquire for coal, so you can't get this ship potentially completely for free, which I would encourage you to do so. But if you don't have the coal, you don't have the time to grind out the coal, she is certainly worth the price, in my opinion. Alright, going on down to number 4, we have the Tier 8 Premium American battleship, the Alabama. Now, if you are somebody that likes the North Carolina, you like the American 16-inch guns, but you don't like the armor of the North Carolina, well, might I present to you the Alabama. The Alabama, a very decent TLDR description of it is, it's a North Carolina that can actually take a hit. The North Carolina, as I'm sure most of you North Carolina captains and any battleship player that shot at one knows, it's not really that well armored. Now, she does have some amazing guns, some incredibly accurate guns, but I mean, hey, if you slip up, you're probably losing 3/4 of your HP to whatever it is that shot at you. That's how poorly the North Carolina is armored. The Alabama is much tougher. Now, she does pay for that with some accuracy on her guns, but hey, if you can stay alive longer to get more shells down range, then it makes up for it, in my opinion. Not to mention as well, the Alabama does also have really darn good AA. She's one of the few good AA ships that are still intact in today's World of Warships. Most CV players will tend to ignore or avoid the Alabama unless they absolutely have to get in there and drop a strike off on it. Not to mention too, she's decently maneuverable. She's still not the fastest ship at her tier, but I mean, if you've been going through the American battleship line, you've been stuck with a Colorado for forever, it's quite the relief. She's definitely fast enough to keep up with the game today. And she has those amazing American 16-inch guns with the American AP. The American AP hits well above its weight class. It's a 16-inch gun, but it hits like a 17 or 18-inch gun. It is slow, though. The shells, as I'm sure anyone that's watched a shell for an extended period of time would have heard me said plenty of times by now, the American shells are slow because of their improved performance. They are the super heavy shell, so they heavy. But that does also allow you to actually be pretty darn good at dealing with cruisers, because the shells are moving slower. They're not going as fast as, let's say, the French 15-inch shells. And if you play like the Richelieu or the Alsace, you know how you can rail a cruiser that's broadside onto you right in their citadel, and your shells are going so darn fast they just zip right on through it. Well, the American shells, since they're going slower, they have a much better chance of actually, well, penetrating and then arming and then detonating on the inside of that ship's citadel. So, with that, and with the super heavy AP shells, they are quite potent. And they are still quite good at dealing with other battleships as well, because they hit really darn hard. For a while there, the only time I was actually able to citadel German battleships were with these guns. It's very weird how that worked. But I mean, hey, super heavy AP. They are a little bit difficult to aim at range, though, so the Alabama is best played from medium to close range, but with the armor that the Alabama has, she's more than capable of doing that. So she's a really darn good battleship if you like playing at mid-range. She's really great for her tier. And again, like we were talking about with the tier 9 ships, with super ships now, tier 8 has gotten a bit of a reprieve from being double up tiered all the time. You're still going to get double up tiered, don't get me wrong, but in my experience, I've been seeing a lot more of tier 8 games rather than tier 8 in tier 10 games, in my experience at least. And you still have the fact that she is a premium ship, and there's a ton of American ships in game, and she is an excellent American commander trainer. I mean, shoot, we literally have 3 4 unofficial lines of American battleships now that you could, of course, easily train the commander up on this thing before going ahead and moving him over to whatever ship that you want. Of course, the commander rework, that doesn't matter anymore, but I mean, still, she's a great commander trainer, a great ship, a great premium ship in my opinion, and definitely worth the asking price. Alright, going on down to number 3, we have the Tier 9 German battleship, the Pommern. The Pommern is a interesting premium. She is a German premium, which if you listen to a lot of other commentators or players, you might think that Wargaming hates Germans based upon how some premiums turn out. But honestly, in the last 2 years, they've been knocking it out of the park with German premium ships. And it all kind of started with the Pommern. Now, what is the Pommern? The Pommern is essentially an FDG, but instead of having 8 16-inch guns, she has 12 15-inch guns. And you might be thinking, well, 15-inch guns at Tier 9, that's kind of small, right? Well, yeah, but I'll refer you back to the Duke of York section. We were talking about how you can make up for caliber through volume of fire, and that is very much true with the Pommern. Yes, they are 15-inch guns. Yes, they aren't overmatching too much at Tier 9, but man, if you slip up and show your broadside, these guns have bite. Not to mention, too, they can still chunk the ever-living crap out of your superstructure. On top of that as well, she, of course, has German secondaries. 12-kilometer secondaries. They're German secondaries. They have the improved HE pins. You take IFHE, every single gun on the ship will be pinning 32 millimeters of armor. And on top of that, she does still have hydroacoustic search and torpedoes. The only gimmick she's missing from the German battleships is her catapult plane. If they had given her that, she'd have literally everything in the German toolbox. So the Pommern is great at brawling. She is fantastic. If you are struggling in ranked right now, Pommern is an easy way to fight your way out of that. And that's one where the Pommern really shines, in my opinion, is ranked and brawls. You always see the Pommern come out in those settings. She does great in those modes. Yes, in random battles, she might not be always on the top of the team and might not be doing that well, but this is a ship that will definitely perform very well in ranked, and always has, and unless there's some big mechanic changes or something in the future, I think always will. And in random, she's not exactly a dull ship to play either. She's a great brawler. You have torpedoes and ace up your sleeve when you get close to other ships. So she's fun in randoms. Maybe not the best performing in randoms, but I mean, I've had some amazing games in this ship in randoms. But in ranked and in brawls, she does fantastically well and makes up for it there, in my opinion, at least. And I'm sure if Tier 9 Clan Battles ever returns and it's in a smaller format, I'm sure she'll probably see some use there as well. Probably not as a first round pick, but definitely if you're doing a hyper aggressive pushing brawling strat, maybe. And if you like to brawl, Pommern is definitely a ship that I would highly recommend picking up. Of course, if you don't like brawling, you like more of the mid to longer range gameplay, definitely not. But if you like brawling, you like German battleships, definitely pick her up. She's one hell of a combination when you put her together with Lucian's, and you have his skills popping off, like the secondary gun skill. And surprisingly enough, I have actually popped the main battery gun skill with Lucian's on Pommern and GK, I think twice each. That was fun, having a quicker reload time on the guns with his main battery skill going. Those were some matches, I must say. So Pommern, she is available for cash, or you can pick her up for coal as well. Another ship you can get on this list completely for free. So obviously, again, if you've got the coal, you're willing to grind it out, definitely a solid choice here. Or if you don't have the time, you don't have the coal, and you're okay with spending the dollars, I fully believe she is worth the value that they ask for her. And again, of course, recommend pick her up for free first. You know, if you got the coal and if you got the patience, it really doesn't take that long to get a Tier 9 coal ship. Just a couple of months of collecting your daily coal containers, and of course you can shorten that by doing things like the dockyard right now and participating in ranked and brawls, of course, too. So going on down to number 2, we have the Tier 6 premium British battleship, the Warspite. The legendary Warspite. She is a ship that has aged incredibly well. She is one of the oldest premiums in the game, and man, she is an absolute blast. For the low price of $27 US, you get a Tier 6 battleship with accurate 15-inch guns with normal AP, which means that this ship is great at just punching through the faces of other Tier 6 battleships. With those 15-inch guns, you have the ability to overmatch the major thresholds at your tier in terms of armor, and they are accurate and they are fierce. It's really an experience going from the Warspite to playing any other Tier 6 battleship with how accurate her guns are. And a good thing about the Warspite too is that they give this ship away so much. There's a good chance if you see like one of your favorite YouTubers doing a World Warships promo, and a lot of those bundles that they offer up, like those sign-up bundles, they usually give away the Warspite. Which is like, dang, they're giving you one of the best premiums in the game for free. So if you find a promo like that, it's one way you could get the Warspite. Other than that, of course, $27 in the armor and the premium shop, and well worth it in my mind. Again, like we're talking about the Pommern, Tier 6 brawls, Tier 6 ranked, definitely going to be a top pick in my opinion. She's very agile, especially for a Tier 2. She can turn on a dime pretty well. She's pretty fast too for a tier. Again, we're not talking about like 36 knots or anything like that, but for a tier, a pretty nimble ship in my opinion. The turrets do take forever and a half to turn, so there is that, and she is quite squishy. But she does have an improved heal. What's often referred to is, at least if you watch my videos, I'll refer to other improved heals as a Warspite heal, because Warspite was one of the first ships to have this improved heal. She does get chunked pretty good, but you have that improved heal to recover a larger chunk of your HP than other Tier 6 battleships. Now, it's not something like the Conqueror heal where you can reprint the ship in a few seconds. No. Nothing like that, but a heal that does definitely, in my opinion, make up for her lack of armor. So she's a ship that has stood the test of time and is still, in my mind, very much worth the asking price. Alright, going down to numero uno, we have the Tier 9 American battleship, the Kearsarge. Yes, I know, the Kearsarge is normally in like the number 1 or number 2 slot where I'm talking about best premium ships or best resource ships or whatever. And it's because it's a good ship. It is really good. As much as it pains me to put a hybrid ship in the number 1 slot, I would be lying to you if I told you this is a bad ship. It's not. So the Kearsarge is, of course, hybrid abomination. You have a flight deck glued in the middle. You have a squadron of rocket planes. These rockets are the Tiny Tim rockets. They pack one hell of a punch. You'll be easily doing like 15k damage and starting a fire or two per run. Once you get the aiming down, you go for the superstructure and enemy ships, any particular chunky looking parts. Again, easy 15k, 1 or 2 fires. Which you get these planes every 2 flippin' minutes. Which is, yeah, that's a little crazy in my mind. And keep in mind too, these are considered armament. So when you get Adrenaline Rush going, when you get Halsey's Confederate skill going, that decreases the reload time on the planes. Yeah! On top of that, you do have 12 16-inch guns, which is the same number and same caliber of guns that the Tier 10 American Techline battleship has, the Montana. But you have that at Tier 9. Now, they are the 45 caliber guns of like the Alabama and the North Carolina, not the 50 caliber guns of the Montana, which means the shells are going even slower than the Montana shells. So it is very difficult to aim with this ship at range, especially considering you have like literally like a 15-second flight time. So your target has plenty of time to maneuver out of the way of your shells. So you have Montana firepower with the addition of planes every 2 minutes. So you have some amazingly consistent ways to do damage with this ship. Which means, normally, this ship, even if it's a really crappy game where the enemy team's running away or you're running away, because of your planes, it's really easy to do consistent damage. And since this is a premium ship, of course, with the economy, you're making quite a lot of credits with this ship. Because you're always able to do, at least for me, it's very easy to do like 130k minimum with this ship, unless the game is just over in like 5 minutes. Obviously, that takes a little bit longer. I'm sorry, that cuts into your time to farm out the damage. But in most situations, it's very easy to do quite a lot of damage with the Kearsarge. Take it into account too, she's quick. She's not like a lot of other hybrids we have in game that are slow. She is actually well armored. If you try to shoot this thing in the hull, she thick. She properly thick. Now, obviously, the giant tumor on her deck is a bit easier to farm out, but if someone, is brawling you and they think to aim for your citadel and your angle, probably going to bounce. But obviously, most people do go for your flight deck and your hangar, and that is very easy to get through. That hangar is, I think, like 16 millimeters, so pretty much every caliber gun that you can see at tier 9 and above is going to have no problem going right through that and farming damage out. Of course, too, with the now American hybrid line, if you have commanders for those ships, they'll probably work quite well on the Kearsarge, although I don't even build into the planes on the Kearsarge because, well, you can't really because of the commander rework. But far as the modules or anything go, no plane modules, because who cares if they all get shot down. You get another full flight in 2 minutes, one way or the other, and I do fantastically well in this ship. So guys, that is my top 5. As well too, this is a cold ship, so you can get the ship completely for free, or you can buy it in the premium shop for $77. Obviously, I would encourage you guys to get it for free, because free is, well, free. It doesn't cost you anything. But again, if you don't have the time, don't have the call, $77 in the armory, well worth it in my opinion. Alright guys, those are my top 5 best premium battleships. Let me know in the comments down below. What would have you included? I was very close to including 1 or 2 more ships and swapping them out, but it was pretty tough for me to narrow this down to 5, because we do have quite a few excellent battleships in game, in my opinion. So guys, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 50,000 subscribers, and we're getting very close to that goal thanks to you guys. Hope you guys have a great Monday, great rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.